Welcome to my future Africa. The title of today's story is Uncle Tom. Today, the name Uncle Tom from the fictional novel Uncle Tom's Cabin has become synonymous with civility and self-hatred. But who really was Uncle Tom? Josiah Henson, also known as Uncle Tom, was born on June 16, 1787 in Charles County, Maryland. He was separated from his family as a kid after his father got disciplined for standing up to a slave owner. His father received 100 lashes and had his hair cut off. One day at the age of 9, Josiah was caught reading a grammar book by his slave master, Mr. Riley. Mr. Riley beat him till he was unconscious and left him with a swollen eye. As he became older, he became the overseer of the plantation. Josiah was able to work and save some money to purchase his freedom, but Mr. Riley cheated him out of his money. After his experience, he escaped to Canada where he gave his story. He later helped about 118 other slaves get to Canada as well. In 1852, author and abolitionist Harriet Beecher Stowe released a powerful fictional book called Uncle Tom's Cabin. Harriet Beecher Stowe was very offended by the passage of the Fugitive Slave Bill in 1850 that required Northerners who were protecting blacks from the Underground Railroad to return them to the South and to slavery, and she decided to write a book to combat that influence. To do her research, she looked into slave narratives, which were accounts of very real slaves who had escaped along the Underground Railroad into freedom, one of whom was Josiah Henson. She used a variety of these texts to put together the characters in Uncle Tom's Cabin. Although it was meant to be a fictional, it was also based on Josiah's life. The book Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in 1852. It was an anti-slavery fictional novel. 17 printing presses had to operate for 24 hours a day to keep up with demands. This made it the best-selling novel of the 19th century. It prompted some individuals to rethink slavery. It was cited as a factor that led to the American Civil War. When Abraham Lincoln later met with the author Harriet Beecher Stowe, he reportedly said, "So you are the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." In 1852, the backlash was immediate and powerful. In fact, the book was so popular it outsold the Bible when it was published. In the southern part of America, the book was banned. The book was so powerful that if you recalled reading it, selling it, or buying it, you would be arrested. Not only could you be arrested, you could also be sentenced to death. Inside of the book, you learn about two characters. One, Uncle Tom, the other, Sambo. Uncle Tom was a good man. He never snitched, beat anybody, and he was the guy that if your sack was empty or low, he would take cotton out of his sack and put into yours, so you wouldn't be beaten. Because he was so loved and respected, they had to put another slave in charge of him named Sambo. Sambo's orders was to beat Uncle Tom every night all the way up until his death. Uncle Tom was beaten to death in the fictional book, but did not give the whereabouts of two women slaves that had escaped. Today's narrative paints him as a weakling, but Uncle Tom was a good man in reality. Sambo should be what we call people, not Uncle Tom. You should be proud to be called Uncle Tom. name came from white slave owners who viewed him as a traitor. Now let's go to how Uncle Tom's story was distorted. The producers of the early stage shows didn't think that they could attract an audience for the Uncle Tom as he was depicted by the author story. They couldn't sell tickets to a theatrical production, the climax which would have been the man dying rather than revealing the whereabouts of these women. But they could sell tickets as they had been successfully by showing blacks in minstrel depictions, showing them liking to dance more than they like to work, showing their insensitivity to each other, showing their willingness to tell the master or mistress what he or she wanted to hear. That sold tickets, and so those were the shows that were produced, staged, and circulated throughout the world. Most people of those days were slave deniers who wouldn't accept the true story of Uncle Tom as described in the fictional novel. If you have learned something from this video, I encourage you to subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I will look forward to seeing you in our next video. Bye.